All right, guys. So today we're going to talk a little bit about hallucinogens. All right, Bryan Johnson recently did mushrooms in a rather bizarre, materialistic way, in my opinion, which is doing it, live streaming the whole time and like sharing with the world. So look, you know, Bryan Johnson is a genius, okay, and he's got a lot going for him, and he does a lot of amazing things. And I'll tell you what, the world needs a Bryan Johnson, okay. So I'm happy that he does what he does, and I do believe that he does really good work for the planet. But there's a lot of things that I like to pick at, specifically because they're good lessons, okay. It's not that I actually personally have anything against him. It's just that he reveals a lot of where culture is at, specifically with materialism. Oop, knock the camera there. Specifically with materialism, okay? Materialism is not about like needing a fancy car or needing a fancy watch, but materialism in this sense is where people forget that there are energetic spiritual roots to things, that there's materialism at its finest is this, all right? It's you go to a salt one of those saline salt baths where the chamber, right, where they lay you in salt and a float tank, okay? And I remember once asking like, well, how often do you change the water? They're like, well, we don't need to change the water that often because we have a UV ray that is shining in the water, and so all of the bacteria is cleaned. Or another example is like my hot tub. The hot tub company, I called them and I said, how often do I have to change this water? Well, if you use these chemicals, you can change the water once every 6 to 12 months. And I'm just like, what the heck are you talking about? Because people don't understand energetic properties. They just look at bacteria, germs. But energetically, the salt tank gets filthy because salt pulls energy out of a person. It cleanses the person. And same with a hot tub. People are energetically dumping their energetic material into the hot tub. And over time, no matter how, even if there's no bacteria, it's a cesspool of energetic toxins. Okay. So materialism is like, materialism is also like, trying to make a vegan meat in a factory that has all the minerals required. Well, yes, but that is not what life is. Life has spirit, okay? And everything on this health journey, you have to understand spirit and energy. And so, that meat, even if it has the minerals, it's just never going to be the same thing as having a steak, okay? So this is another example where, most of the things that Bryan Johnson does is basically all under the guise of like the human body is a machine. It needs to be fixed, and there's vitamins and minerals and ratios and test results and blood results. And by the way, this is very needed work. Please understand that I'm saying this is needed work, right? But, if I followed this guy, I would have died, years ago. So it's missing something. It's missing something of the soul. Maybe he's trying to find that by doing these mushrooms. But ultimately, this is an example of a really interesting container that he decided to do it in, like reveal everything to the world immediately, live stream it. It's like done in a very scientific way, which is kind of the opposite of what these ancient medicines intended to do or are here for. It's a very internal experience. It's a very sacred experience that you usually want to keep to yourself for a period of time, because like another example of materialism, you have these retreats and people have these huge openings and it's on camera of people crying and screaming. Well, that's no longer that no longer belongs to that person. That's now the whole world has access to that. You lose something of the sacred. You lose something of the subtle, and you lose. It's when you have an opening, a spiritual opening, it's yours. You want to own it. When the whole world can see it and it's on camera, it changes. It becomes performance. Okay, whether the person is conscious of it or not. Okay, there's some level of performance when you have cameras in a deep spiritual setting. Okay, so nonetheless, right, he takes 5 grams of mushrooms and he has this experience, and I'm happy for him, whatever he ended up getting. But let's talk about hallucinogens, okay? Let's talk about this. And now, who am I? Well, I've done a lot of hallucinogens. Ayahuasca 31 times, mushrooms 20 times, acid, ketamine, San Pedro. And I've done these in very, very good, healthy settings for the most part, okay? And I treated these medicines with ultimate respect and ultimate care, all right? But the world is kind of missing the point of hallucinogens. These are a sacred tool that are meant for someone to understand their reality and understand their brain and understand the interface of where their nervous system meets the world and how to change the dial on that nervous system level and how to make changes in someone's life. But these are peak experiences that only give you, in terms of tangible change on a nervous system and on a mental level and on a chemical level, they only give you what you're able to actually integrate. Okay, and this is what's missing. People are just chasing peak experiences, or people take their addictive personalities or their desire for a high and they translate or transpose that to the hallucinogenic world, and it's not correct. Okay, it's not. When I say correct, I'm talking about using it in the way that God intended us to use these, if at all. Right? Like these should be a once every 5-year thing max, right? This is not something you just do time and time and time again. So let's talk about hallucinogens, okay? Let's talk about the hidden shadow most people miss, all right? So what you have to understand is there's a world of seduction here. This was called the Luciferic light in Rudolf Steiner's teachings. He talked about Lucifer and how Lucifer is always trying to pull you outside of yourself using seduction. Miami is a very Luciferic city. LA, a very Luciferic city. You go to these places, and when I go, I can literally feel myself getting caught up in like a particular vibe, which is like, oh shit, I have to look better. I have to be more fit. I have to get more tan. I have to have a nicer car. And you get pulled into this world of appearance, okay? And it's actually pretty painful for me because I sometimes will forget what I'm really here for, okay? I'm not here to be a billionaire. I'm not here to be the sexiest individual, the flashiest individual, or I'm here for a depth and a mission that gives people their soul back, okay? And so that opposing force of the Luciferic pull is seductive, and it can take me at times for a couple hours or a day or a couple days, and I'll lose something of my center, right? And hallucinogens, oftentimes when they're not done correctly or with the right intentions or with the right understanding, they can be more of that. Laced with spiritual language and spiritual flavor. But ultimately, what I learned through all my ayahuasca ceremonies was, wow, am I connecting to God, or am I connecting to some sort of seductive being that wants me to think that they are God? And this is a discernment that's very hard to achieve. You have to be really trained to have this level of discernment and to feel what beings have integrity and what don't. Because let me tell you something, the North Star in these experiences is not what feels good. Because you could get sucked up into a whole state when you're on drugs where it feels so good. You feel connected and intoxicated and everything is love and you feel like a god. That does not mean you're achieving anything or changing anything or that you're grounded whatsoever. A lot of times you can get, like any drug, you're pulled into a space and you're like, yeah, this feels good. But you lose context of what you're actually doing or what you're connecting with during that experience. Okay? So my general rule is if you're easily seduced in daily life, you're going to get seduced in the spirit world. As above, so below. Like if a pretty girl can come and like have her way with you by her words and her energy, the way she moves her body and just like pulls on you at the right moments and can play games with you and pushes and pulls and, all the games with dating. If you get caught in those games, you're going to get caught in a hallucinogenic journey. You're going to get caught. Okay. So look, this is a generalization. Some people have really good experiences. They really do connect to genuine healing, but I'm making a generalization, which is that a lot of these experiences, even if they feel good, even if you feel like you're healing, you don't quite know what you're connected to, okay? And this filter is very fragile, okay? And this is why we like, at the Detox Dudes, we like purification versus drugs or hallucinogens. We like to cleanse the body because the changes when you change, in order to change your nervous system, okay, you have to connect to the subtlety, not the flashing fireworks and all the flashing lights. Hallucinogens are very flashy, all right? They're peak experiences. You're chemically altered. You're in a state. The day-by-day refinement is how you change a life, okay? And you want to land your higher self in your physical body through willpower and through intention, through discipline, through detox, through breathwork, through prayer, through presence. Substances are like a wild card hammer that you bring in when all else fails and you're just so unbelievably stuck and you need to shake everything, okay? But hallucinogens can fracture consciousness. So we're already fractured. Why fracture ourselves even more? Okay, tools like 5-MeO-DMT, they're hammers to the psyche, not scalpels. They're not refined scalpels. When you see like the Navy SEAL documentary that just came out where these guys are smoking DMT after doing Iboga, these guys are which is kind of needed to a Navy SEAL because they're so caught up in a shell from their training. But these substances are like a hammer. They're not a path that you follow. You can't follow a path of 5-MeO-DMT. Have you ever seen someone that's done a lot of 5-MeO-DMT? I have. They're massively ungrounded. So repeated use can cause fatigue, instability, and also spiritual bypassing. People just get lost in their own bubble, even if they feel good. They lose a precious tether to reality. Just look at Aubrey Marcus. That dude has done a ton of hallucinogens, and his recent videos, he got so much hate because of how ungrounded he is. Okay, with his discussion of like, I saw ISIS and ISIS told me to marry both of you and impregnate both of you, and his language and the way he speaks, he doesn't take agency. He lost his agency over like, no, I chose to do this. This is called spiritual bypassing, okay, where it's like, God instructed me not to date you. I'm sorry. No. I am choosing to break up with you. It's a bypass to avoid tension and pain of being a human being, okay? So also, shamans are not always safe. Shamans a lot of times don't understand Western psychological trauma. A lot of times shamans have a lot of their own material that's in the way. Look, there's a general rule. When you're taking a hallucinogen, you are going to open your energy up to the people who are closest to you in that moment. Okay, you are going to crack open your etheric to those people. Do you trust them? Do you know them? Do you know what they're about? Because look, you could really love someone and trust someone, they're a really good person, but if they're really dirty energetically, or if they haven't taken care of their own material, it's gonna affect your process. Okay, so hallucinogens is a world where you outsource your sovereignty a lot of times. When you drink that drink, you're just at the mercy of the journey for 6 hours. Whoever that person is, you just kind of really don't have much of a choice. It's really hard to open and close your energy on command the way you would do sober. See, when you're sober, you can choose. You can just have this no, thank you. When you're on the substance, it's very hard. You crack open your etheric to everything that is in that moment, okay? And so the other thing is with substances is revelation must be integrated, okay? So big visions aren't going to be helpful without the grounded follow-through. It leads to chaos, disconnection, and sometimes ego inflation a lot of times, all right? So what people are doing with these substances is they're chasing connection. They're chasing a peak experience. They're desperate to connect to something bigger than themselves, but they're not learning how to create that thread on their own accord. That is something no one can take away from you. That is the Bitcoin to the random crypto shitcoins out there. When you meditate and do breath work and cleanse and purify the body and detox and work on yourself, and you create a pipeline to God and to spirit and to your highest self with sober, okay, you have digital gold, okay? When you taking mushrooms all the time or ayahuasca or all this stuff to try and sort your life out, you're buying the shit coins, okay? You're buying shit coins. It's volatile. It's unstable. It has a cost, okay? There is a major cost with blasting yourself with substances. This filter is very fragile. You must learn how to take care of this filter and treat this filter with the utmost respect and honor. When you blast this filter with things, especially when you do it in a reoccurring fashion, there are hidden, sometimes even sinister costs that you cannot decipher with your being. You might think, but ayahuasca helped me eat cleaner and I love myself more and everything is better, and maybe. But there are weird hidden costs, just like, let me tell you, okay, this, okay, the cannibalistic island on Life of Pi, okay, the carnivorous island. Do you remember this from the movie, guys? This is the perfect representation of hallucinogens, in my opinion. Whatever the island gave during the day, okay, this place, what it gave during the day, it took away at night. All right? So he had this amazing experience here. All right? And during the day, it was like, wow, this is incredible. But at night, there was an acid that dissolved all of the fish in the pool. And he knew that the island would eventually kill him. He saw a human tooth, I believe, at one point. Okay? And he knew he would die on that island. Hallucinogens, though less dramatic, I'm not saying it's this dramatic, hallucinogens have a similar property. They are teaching you something. They're there for some good. They have lessons for you, but there's a cost, especially when you make it a way of life. Okay, once in a while, you need something to shake the tree. I'm not judging, and I'm not judging in any case, or anyone. I'm just telling you from my personal experience. My life did not change from hallucinogens. My life changes now, and now, and now, and now. And that's through breath, intentionality, presence, awareness, and choices. Micro choices sometimes. Okay? So, of course, we love Detox at the Detox Dudes. All right? Clean food, purification, liver cleansing, parasite cleansing, being in your truth, being authentic. Okay? You don't need a chemical vacation. You need embodied clarity. Okay? We talked about this. Every shortcut has a spiritual price. All right? Quick spiritual highs often create longer-term spiritual debt. That's what I'm talking about, the carnivorous island. All right? So, when you have a peak experience, maybe you saw God, maybe you saw Jesus, maybe you connected to your angels, okay. But are you better? Are you more present? Are you more loving? Are you more grounded? Or are you more confused? Okay? Do you need that substance to access states? Do you feel dependent on the substance to access states? Okay? Revelation without integration is spiritual addiction. Purification without shortcuts is true sovereignty. So again, there's nothing wrong with doing substances, but the path is up. When you have sovereignty, it's because you have the ability to connect to subtlety. You understand what is happening to yourself on a day-by-day basis. You understand how your nervous system is interacting with the world on a day-by-day basis. And you know how to dissolve trauma, stress, tension, and toxins. Most people are accruing trauma, stress, toxins, and whatever the fourth one was. Trauma, stress, toxins, and tension. Most people are gaining more of that each and every day. If you learn how to dissolve that, you don't need substances, because this system was meant to connect to God. This antenna is designed to connect to God. You have to pull away the interference. Okay? So the deeper you go into yourself, the less you need to escape. Detox isn't sexy, but it works. Choose clarity over chaos. Choose you over the shortcut. There is no shortcut. It's an illusion. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. See you on the next video. Peace.